It's been 25 years since the Premier League was first created. Back in 1992, the old First Division was scrapped after 104 years and a breakaway league was formed in time for the 9293 campaign, with 22 teams ready to do battle. News Group Newspapers Limited. Man United won the inaugural Premier League title in 199,293. Chelsea won the most recent Premier League title in 201,617. Of course, football has changed dramatically since then, as the role of money and business in the beautiful game has taken a tighter grip. It's not just the whopping transfer fees, sky-high wages and sponsorship deals though. The grounds fans came to love have been modified, streamlined, improved and in some cases totally destroyed and rebuilt from the rubble. Some clubs, including West Ham most recently, have relocated altogether as they waved goodbye to Upton Park and moved across East London to the London Stadium. They're not the only ones to seek pastures greener though, as Arsenal bid Highbury farewell and moved to the Emirates Stadium. But just how have the current 20 Premier League clubs' grounds changed in the past 25 years? Find out below. Full Friday Premier League preview featuring Arsenal v Liverpool. Arsenal's Highbury was a very different place in the 199,293 season. The Emirates is a completely different stadium to Highbury Stadium's Highbury. Emirates capacity 1992 38,419, capacity 2017 60,432. Incredibly, for the opening day of the 199,293 season, fans at Highbury were greeted by a mural where the old North Bank terrace once stood. It depicted the soon-to-be-built new Toitier stand. Clearly the players were stunned too, losing 42 at the hands of Norwich. Arsenal of course shipped off to the Emirates Stadium in 2006 in order to find room for more fans, with Highbury far too cramped amongst housing to build on. Bournemouth's Dean Court home back in 1992. Dean Court, now known as the Vitality Stadium, is still the smallest in the Premier League stadiums. Dean Court capacity 1992 10,000, approximately capacity 2017 11,464. Back in 1992, the Cherries were loitering down in the third tier, playing at a tiny ground comprised mostly of terracing. Just the one compact stand stood at Dean Court, now known as the Vitality Stadium, of course. While still standing on the same soil, the ground was entirely rebuilt in 2001, with the pitch even rotated 90 degrees. While the ground remains small, arguably too much so for a Premier League team, it is a huge improvement on the original. Brighton played their games at the Goldstone Ground back in 1992. Brighton and Hove Albion now play their home games at the Amex Stadium. Stadium's Goldstone Ground, Withdean Stadium, Amex Stadium capacity 1992 36,747, record attendance capacity 2017 30,750. Famously the stadium in which David Beckham made his Manchester United debut in 1992. The Goldstone Ground isn't all that well known. The Seagulls were in the third tier for the 199,293 season, with top-flight football a mere pipe dream at that stage. Many troubles meant the stadium was sold in 1997 with no new home lined up. A move to the Withdean Stadium, originally an athletics venue and a ground share with Gillingham, finally led to a move to the Felmer Stadium, now the Amex, in 2011. The 30,750-seater ground will see its first ever taste of Premier League action in 201,718. A far cry from 1992's Goldstone Ground. Burnley have always used the Turf Moor Stadium as their home. Since the 19th century, Turf Moor has always been the home of Burnley FC, but has undergone major changes over the years. Stadium's Turf Moor capacity 1992 21,401, capacity 2017 21,401. The Clarets have and played at Turf Moor ever since 1883. When the Premier League was born in 1992, the ground was dominated by terracing. But fast forward 25 years and the stadium is a different animal, fully seated thanks to the old terraces being converted in the mid-90s. Chelsea Stamford Bridge looked very different 25 years ago in the 199,293 season. The home of Chelsea FC, Stamford Bridge as it looks in the present-day stadium's Stamford Bridge capacity 1992 30,000, approximately capacity 2017 41,663. All change please. Back in 1992, Stamford Bridge, the very same ground the Blues play at today, was an entirely different entity. The West London Stadium then boasted just one stand, the 3-tier East Stand, with sweeping bowl terracing covering 3/4 of the ground. But following substantial work in the 90s and Chelsea now show off a 4-stand, all-seater 40,000-seater stadium, with plans for even more work. Crystal Palace, Selhurst Park, then home of Crystal Palace and Wimbledon. Back in 1992, how Selhurst Park looks ahead of the 201,718 season stadium. Selhurst Park capacity 1992 20,000, approximately capacity 2017 25,456. The Eagles played out a stunning 33 draw with Blackburn on the opening day of the season at home, with Rovers' new signing Alan Shearer scoring twice. Palace netted a last-minute equalizer to thrill home fans, many of whom stood in the open terracing at the Holmesdale Road end. That was replaced in 199,495 with a 2-tier stand, with the other end White Horse Lane were roofed and made an all-seater in 1993. Everton, Goodison Park, home of Everton, circa the 199,293 season. Goodison Park, home of Everton, as it looks today in the 21st century stadiums. Goodison Park capacity 1992 40,157, capacity 2017 40,157. Since leaving Anfield, yes, that Anfield, in 1892, Goodison Park has been Everton's home. In truth, little has changed at the old ground since the Premier League was formed in 1992. In fact, only the new park end stand being built and the transition away from terraces show any difference. 2 stands, built in the 1920s and 1930s, are still standing today but may not for much longer, as the Toffees continue their quest for a new ground. Huddersfield played their games at Leeds Road back in the 199,293 season. Huddersfield Town now play their games at the John Smith's Stadium. Leeds Road, John Smith's Stadium, capacity 1992 16,195, capacity 2017 24,500. Back in 1992, Huddersfield were plying their trade down in the 3rd tier of English football at Leeds Road, their home since 1908. For the Prem's first year, their capacity was just over 16,000 despite boasting a large popular side terrace. In the present day, Town play at the John Smith Stadium, a 24,500-seater stadium and home since 1994. However, for the first game that summer, 2 stands were incomplete and took around 4 years to finally be finished. Leicester City played their home games at Filbert Street during the early 90s. Leicester City now turn out at the King Power Stadium. Filbert Street, King Power Stadium, capacity 1992 22,000, capacity 2017 32,312. The Foxes spent over a century at Filbert Street, having played their first game there in 1891. In 1992, it was a somewhat disjointed stadium, with a 2-tier south stand that towered over the east and north stands. Elsewhere, the main stand was rebuilt in the Premier League year 199,293, before the move to the Walkers Stadium, now the King Power Stadium, in 2002. Liverpool Anfield hasn't changed too much in the past 25 years. Since the 199,293 season, Anfield, home of Liverpool, is roughly 10,000 seats larger in the present day compared to 1992 stadium's Anfield capacity. 1992 45,362 capacity. 2017 54,074. Celebrating their 100th birthday in 1992, the Reds opened up the centenary stand next to the famous KOP. Due to safety restrictions, the terraced area had its capacity cut from 30,000 at its peak to 15,000, with the main and Anfield Road stands already all-seater. For years Liverpool loitered around the 45,000-seater mark, after the old KOP was demolished in 1994 and replaced by a 12,390 all-seated stand. A huge main stand opened in 2016, boosting that tally to 54,074. Manchester City's old home, Main Road, was one of the biggest stadia of the time. Manchester City now play their home games at the old Commonwealth Games Stadium, now called the Etihad Stadium's Main Road. Etihad capacity 1992 35,150, capacity 2017 55,097. Long before the mega money modern days at the Etihad, City played their games down at Main Road. It was once the largest stadium in England, but by the early 90s, when the Premier League was born, it was showing its age. The Plat End was rebuilt during the debut year, but its days were clearly numbered. The club took the City of Manchester Stadium, the home of the 2002 Commonwealth Games, and renamed it, in the place they now call home. Manchester United Old Trafford, home of Manchester United. As it looked in the early 90s, Old Trafford has significantly improved over the past 25 years, now seating around 75,000 fans. Stadium's Old Trafford capacity 1992 44,000, capacity 2017 75,643. Old Trafford had been developed with a long-term plan already in mind come the 199,293 season. That allowed United to regularly and seamlessly add to stands or rebuild entirely, with the Stratford End Terrace being torn down in 1992 the only real disruption. It was rebuilt to boost the capacity from 32,000 to 44,000 for the campaign, before two new tiers added to the North Stand in 1996 took that figure up to 55,000.